105.5 WDHA, the Rock of New Jersey, live from the WDHA Coors studio. It's so funny because we have so many people in studio and it's so quiet.
I know. Everyone's scared to make a noise.
Everyone!
What if you guys make some noise?
Make some!
We've got a live studio audience in studio.
Cool. With Superstar Chris Jericho.
And that's
from
Superstar
Fozzy.
with an H. Superstar.
Yes,
from Fozzy. I'm here.
Yay!
Yes.
You know, it's like I don't know where to start with you. I mean, this is going to be very music oriented because you're here in a rock capacity. It was really cool because we had a listener come the other day and he's like, I didn't win the Fozzy contest. He had a son with him. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You entered. And he's like, yeah, I entered. I was going to bring my son. And it sounds like he's my favorite band. In my favorite band. And I was like, oh, and wrestling thing, he didn't even know you from that. He just knew you from Fozzy.
Yeah, you get a lot of that at this point in time.
That's the thing, yeah.
I mean, there's some people that are interested just in Fozzy. There's some people that are still kind of wrestling fans that come to see it, to see what's up. That's few and far between. But you get a lot of people that are fans of both, which is great. I mean, and for me, whatever it takes to get people, in the door. Every band has some kind of a gimmick, shall we say, whether it's Kiss with makeup or Slipknot with masks or, Prophets of Rage is a super group with,
right.
And if Fozzy's quote-unquote gimmick is that, it's the band with Chris Jericho in it, that used to be kind of people's perception a long time ago when we started. But at this point in time, it's just a great rock and roll band. And it doesn't matter if I'm a butcher, baker, or candlestick maker. It's either good music or it's not. Yeah. And I'm sure Jared Leto went through it with 30 Seconds. I'm sure Taylor Momsen went through it. As a matter of fact, I know she did because I talked to her about it, with people thinking that she's going to be on stage doing some kind of a Cindy Lou Who soliloquy from Grinch That Stole Christmas.
No doubt.
And they go, oh my gosh, she can really sing. We don't do this as a novelty or as a vanity project. We do it because we love rock and roll and we're pretty good at it. So right now, with the success of Judas, and the album, the song, Painless is now following up. It's just taken things to a completely different level. And it's very gratifying for us. It's been a lot of work, but now here we are, kind of poised at the peak of going to even a higher mountain.
20 years almost.
Almost 20 years, yeah. And I mean, we started in 2000, and then we took a break for about 5 years. And then we reconfigured in 2010 with the Chasing the Grail record. And that's when we said, let's do this full time now. No more kind of a part-time thing. Let's make this the priority and see how far we can take it. And that's kind of what's led us to where we are right now.
And I think for you, way harder, harder mountain to climb.
Well, I think a lot of times we had to work twice as hard to get people's respect, solely because I'm in the band.
Yeah.
So that's fine though, because we understand that. We don't have a problem. Like, I would put our band up against any band on the planet. And I'm looking at all the bands that you have here, from Bon Jovi to Foo Fighters to Metallica to anybody in between, as far as being a great, entertaining, energetic rock and roll band. It's our forte at this point. We don't have dragons flying from the ceiling or huge pyro going off the drummer's rear end. We are the show. We're Van Halen in 1979. We make sure that we leave everything on stage every night, and that's kind of become our reputation, and it's paid off big time for us.
Yeah, especially with this record. You've often said, if Metallica and Journey had a bastard child, it would be Fozzy. There's the melodies, there's the metal.
I added I said if Journey and Metallica had a bastard child and it was raised by AC/DC.
That's it.
That would be Fozzy.
That's it. So when, I remember my Fozzy moment where I was like, wow, this band is like super legit. Do you remember when you looked out into the crowd and you were like, you know what, they get it now? Do you remember that moment?
Well, I mean, I've always had that. I mean, we've always had people. I mean, that's the thing about this band, because we've spanned almost 2 generations in a lot of ways. There's people that grew up with the band now at this point, that were there at our first shows in New York City, and the Cricket Club for the New Jersey Metal Festival that looked like.
I remember that.
Do you remember? You don't.
I do. Yeah.
Where was that? Somewhere.
Cricket Club.
But where? Somewhere in New Jersey.
It was somewhere down in.
Where was it at?
I think Irvington.
Irvington, there you go. And it was like it was like this dark street that looked like Escape from New York, post-apocalyptic.
It used to be Emotions.
Yeah, and it had like a fence around it with barbed wire on the top of it. We played that twice, and you'd be like, I remember the one time we played. This is back in 2002,
oh, yeah, so
maybe.
Early.
And Status Quo was the headliner, who played like stadiums in England and come to the States and play the Cricket Club. They're probably going, what the hell is this? But we had have those experiences. And then now we have kind of the modern day Fozzy that's doing all of these great things. I mean, tonight we're doing the Gramercy Theater, and we're within, a dozen tickets of selling out, which is our biggest show in New York history. I mean, the Gramercy's a good sized place. And when you start selling out New York, we sold out LA, Detroit, Philly sold out, Dayton sold out, Vegas was sold out. You start seeing these sellouts more and more often. We've never had that before in the States.
Yeah.
And now we're in the midst of it. And it's a great feeling because, like I said, you feel the buzz about the band, and the perception of the band has changed to a completely different thing. And I always knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of time. But now that it is happening, it's a really cool feeling. It's like pushing that snowball up the mountain. You push it up, and you finally get to the top, and then it gets pushed over the edge, and then it starts rolling and picking up steam.
Headlining New York City tonight. It's cool bands opening, too.
Yes.
Through Fire's on the bill, right?
Yeah, Through Fire.
They're
doing a great job as well. Dark
really
Star Choir, a band called Joyous Wolf.
Yeah, so get there early, guys.
From California, who's just a great rock and roll band, kind of in the, I'd say the Greta Van Fleet type of just an old school rock and roll band. So it's a great package, and we put a lot of thought into our packages. We don't just take whoever's available or whoever is doing this, that, and other thing. I actually listen to the bands that are put in front of me for a possible tour and make sure that it's a good package from the moment the doors open until the moment we finish our show, because we believe it's important to not just have a bunch of nameless faceless opening bands that are on the bill just to kill time, or their locals selling tickets to their friends. We don't believe in that. We want everybody on the show to contribute to making this a great night of rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, I heard from a listener earlier, I just jotted her name down, because I'm like, I'll mention you during the interview. Colleen and her son Brian John, and she's like, my son met Chris years ago. Now Fozzy is absolute favorite band, and husband's taking son tonight to Gramercy Theater. See, that's
nice,
kind of what it's all about.
We get a lot of, we have a really young fan base, which is really cool, because we've toured with bands like Anthrax, for example. We love the Anthrax guys, but their fans are they're Anthrax fans. They want to see Anthrax. They may be a little older at times, especially in Europe. When we tour with ourselves, we have a real young fan base, which is great because it shows that they're relating to the band from the radio aspect, from the buzz, from the this is becoming the cool thing to go see.
Finding you on social media.
Yeah, social media as well. So we like that because we have a real well-rounded group of people that come see our shows, from kids to older people and everyone in between, which just shows the impact of the band.
And I love seeing you guys too on festivals. Like, I saw you guys, I think Uproar was the festival I saw you guys on. And I just remember sitting there and looking out into the crowd and being like, man, these people are so into Fozzy. And as an opener for you, you guys can really kind of fit in anywhere. I saw you opening for Theory on the Theory of a Dead Man tour. Metal tours, whether it's Anthrax or you guys are just a great rock band.
Well, it all boils back down. It's funny because, like you said, we've toured with Anthrax, we toured with Theory of a Dead Man and Kiss and Steel Panther and Avenged Sevenfold, and kind of a Slash, a real kind of eclectic group of bands, but we can fit in with that because we did a show. We had a show in San Diego about a month ago, and it was one of those nights where a band called Iced Earth was playing the same night
as
Fozzy. So instead of competing against each other, we put the two shows together and sold out the House of Blues in San Diego. Cool. And now you have a bunch of Iced Earth fans who had no intention of chanting Fozzy throughout the whole show.
Right.
I can see it because that's what they were chanting Fozzy, because it boils down to the basic principle of going to a rock show to have fun. And I don't care if it's Slayer, Iced Earth, or Bon Jovi, or Justin Timberlake. People want to have a good time at the show. It's the KISS principle, 1978 KISS, where people like to chant, they like to clap, they like to have fun, and it doesn't matter how hard and heavy you are. Metallica does it every night, Iron Maiden does it every night. They make you part of the show. And when we can do that the way that we do it with Fozzy, you have Iced Earth fans, 50-year-old guys with Iced Earth shirts and do-rags because they're bald on top but long hair at the back, chanting Fozzy, Fozzy, and whatever our name is kind of strange sometimes, but it is the easiest name to chant, and every single show we play, every single time the song ends, there's a Fozzy chant. It's the most incredible thing.
Are
It's
we
like
going to do that?
it's like magic.
Are we going to do that at the end? We're definitely going to do that at
It's
the end
easy.
of the
I
interview.
mean, it's hard to chant Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
It's very easy to chant Fozzy.
A little difficult.
It's 2 syllables.
A little difficult. Chris Jericho live in the WDHA Coors Light studio. I want to talk about the new record when we come back. And I also had, these folks are Fozzy fans.
They're great.
Fozzy fans.
Jam-packed in here.
People were sort of like, listen, you got to ask Chris this for me. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Judas and give it over to the fans for a couple of questions.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, here we go. Let's make some noise, guys.
Couple questions from listeners. First, though, let's talk about Judas. 7th release for you guys, which a lot of people are surprised. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's the first 5." No, 7 records.
We're a 17-year overnight sensation.
That's the best part ever. Record you always wanted to make?
I mean, I don't really know how anybody can really say that, because you never know what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. I mean, every record you make is the best record you've ever done at the time. And every band will say, this is the best record we've ever done, as they should. If there's ever somebody that comes in your studio and says, this is definitely the 3rd best record we've ever made, it's not the right attitude. So I think that the most important thing for us was the progression of Fozzy. And I mentioned kind of regrouping in 2010 with Chasing the Grail. We love that record, but now we don't even play any songs from it live. It just doesn't make the cut because Sin and Bones was so much better, and Do You Want to Start a War was better than that. I think Judas, the reason why it's taken that next step, and not that I'm comparing us to Metallica or Kiss, but when Metallica worked with Bob Rock on the Black Album, or Kiss with Bob Ezrin on Destroyer, or AC/DC with Mutt Lange on Highway to Hell and Back in Black, having this other voice, a producer who says, listen, I love your band, but I think you're missing this part of it. And there's a guy called Johnny Andrews that we used out of Atlanta, who Rich Ward and I said, okay, listen, he's the boss. He's the principal. No matter what he says, he has the final decision. And for 2 alpha male control freaks like Rich and myself,
that would be really difficult, especially
absolutely
for Rich, who was a founding,
Well, yeah, him and I founded Fozzy. He produced all the records, and then we
Yeah.
said we're going to give Johnny the reins, and it really was kind of a Black Album situation when you see A Year in Life in Metallica and they're hating on Bob Rock. We hated Johnny Andrews. Like, what a son of a bitch. We hate this guy. Who does he think he is telling us what to do? And I always wrote the lyrics in Fozzy. I submitted my 14 sets of lyrics, and he picked 2 of them out, and the rest went in the trash. And I'm like, what? This is genius. Everything I wrote is amazing. Turns out that his lyrics were much better. But the bottom line is, who cares who writes it? All that matters is the final product, and even if they're his lyrics, I still have to sing them and introduce them to the world. So a song like Judas, one of the reasons why I think it was so big is because it's very relatable. It's not about Judas, betraying Jesus. It's about the Judas inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone makes the wrong decision and knows it. The extra donut or the extra drink, knowing that you're probably going to throw up after, or kissing someone that you shouldn't kiss, or whatever it may be. That's why people could resonate with that, And a lot of the lyrics are like that. So in a way, it is the album that we wanted to make, because it's the natural progression from Do You Want to Start a War to, like I mentioned, very groovy, very heavy, very melodic, great lyrics, shorter songs, not worried about if there's a guitar solo in it or not. I think we have 5 solos out of 11 songs in this record.
Yeah.
Judas doesn't have a solo, Painless doesn't have a solo, they just have instrumental breaks. And that was because Johnny felt that they didn't need solos. Why are you putting a solo on it? Just have a solo? We know you guys can play, but this doesn't need it. And to get that into your mind and understand what he was preaching was really beneficial to both of us as songwriters and as musicians. And it's one of those things where, as much as I'm not going to say we hated Johnny, but we were very annoyed by him.
Sure.
There's
absolutely.
no way that we're not doing another record without him. The next record is already being talked about with Johnny Andrews again. So
when I heard this record, I thought, wow, this really, to me, I thought really refined kind of the Fozzy sound. It was everything we loved about the band, but sort of like 2.0.
Yeah, you know, when I first heard the demo for Judas, I'm like, okay, that's the name of the record, and that's the opening track. I just knew it, and it's funny because I'm a huge Halloween fan, a power metal band from Germany.
Oh, yeah.
And they have an EP called Judas from 1985 that probably 10% of our audience has even heard of the band or even knows that. But I was a little bit concerned. I was like,
right.
we're going to call the album Judas, but Halloween has an EP. Like, what are you talking about?
Like, Chris, only you would know that.
Yeah, and then what Lady Gaga has, I don't care about Lady Gaga. Halloween has an EP called Judas from 1985.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so we just thought the whole concept of Judas as an album title, as a opening track, concert opener, and then of course you never know how big it's gonna get. Like we had no idea. You know, we've had some big songs. Sandpaper was really big.
Right.
Lights Go Out, Enemy. But the first week that Judas came out, it did 1 million views on YouTube. The video. What? In 1 week? A month it was at like almost 4. Like, are you kidding me? We've never had a video that hit 4 million ever. And this did it in a month. And then it started this long 26-week journey on the charts where it debuted at like number 77 and worked all the way up to number 5. Now, for a song, as you know, to be on the charts for 26 weeks is insane. And to go that high just showed that it was slowly opening all of these doors that were previously closed for Fozzy. For whatever reason, this station started playing it, and then suddenly, you know, WDHA is playing, and then suddenly Colorado Springs, and oh, we got Boise. What does that mean? Boise's huge. Rock radio is still a very big influence in a modern rock band. People go, rock radio is dead. No, it's not. I'll tell you from experience. Maybe in New York City or Los Angeles or Chicago, but you get to places like where we are today and hundreds of other stations literally across the country. It has serious influence. And when you can get on the radio, it makes a difference for your band, and we've seen that.
And you know, you don't discount that. When we ask our listeners in any kind of a poll, what are the top 3 reasons they listen to WDHA? New music discovery is always in the top 3. Always, always, always. Community is a big part of it, but new music discovery, they want to be here listening to bands that rock hard, right, guys?
Yeah.
Like Fozzy.
Well, I mean, and that's what I mean, and you know, you never know about that unless you actually are in the radio
When
game.
you're in
And then,
it.
like,
When
every
you're in
week you get the chart. Like, this week we went from 19 to 13. We were the biggest gainer on Billboard. We had the most spin creases. That's a word you'll know. And we had the most ads. Above any other band. Shinedown, Pearl Jam, Five Finger, all of these huge bands, and we beat all of them. That's a big deal.
You gotta feel good.
It feels great.
Feel really good. I want to do Judas. You guys want to rock out a little bit? Yeah, let's do it. It's Fozzy, Judas, Chris Jericho live in the WDHA Coors Light Studio. So our listeners have some questions. Mike,
Can I just, that was a quick segue. You mentioned that when you had Slash in here and he was saying, hearing his song on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, that's something you never take for granted. Like, just hearing Judas on the radio. And I've only heard it in the car maybe 2 or 3 times. One time on Octane, and one time I heard Painless on the local station in Tampa, 98 Rock. But there's a certain feeling that never goes away when you turn the radio on and your song is playing. It's like that movie, That Thing You Do.
Yeah, right.
When they hear the
They're
song.
like running down the street and screaming.
The Oneaters.
Yeah, the Oneaters,
Wonders.
right.
That's real. Like, that never goes away, and I think, I don't care who you are, hearing it on the radio, at least I hope you never take it for granted. I never do. So that's really cool to hear it in the studio. So.
Yeah, I could see you kind of like, you know.
It's just, I mean, it's just a cool, it's a cool vibe. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not doing Oneaters, but it's just like, man, you know, your whole life. I remember playing, you know, rock and roll in my friend's garage, you know, when I was 15 years old, and the first thing we ever learned was "You Really Got Me." It was 3 of us, and I played bass, and nobody sang. So we just would go like, that's
the best part.
That's the best part. We were playing in the garage with the door open because these 2 girls used to walk by every day. They were called Carla McNacka and Lorraine Foster, living down the street. And the girls would come and play. And then finally, after a couple weeks, one time they walked by and the one girl went, "Don't you know any other songs?" And the other girl said, "And doesn't anybody sing?" And that's when I was like, well, I guess I'll give this singing thing a try. But from that moment to here, it's a pretty cool feeling.
Definitely. Well, that kind of leads me to Austin's question, because Austin wanted to know, when was like your moment? And when also, beyond it being your moment, when did you know that then Fozzy was going to be a priority for you? Other things were sort of going to go on the back burner. You being a frontman and singer for a band does not come without it being priority. You have to commit to going on the road. You have to commit to leaving your family. You guys, I said it off the air, I'll say it on the air, hard-working band. You guys are out doing festivals and big places and opening for this and headlining and doing, I mean, so when did you know it was your moment? And when did you know what, this is my priority now?
I think, like I said, we did 3 records in 5 years, 2000, 2005. And there was kind of a directional change of the band, and then we just kind of went our separate ways. I don't really know why that happened, but it just from 2006 to 2009, we just didn't do anything. And for whatever reason. But when Rich and I got on the phone and started talking about like let's resurrect this thing, I think both of us said the only way we're going to do this is do it for real. Not just a side project. We didn't do a lot of touring back in the day. Let's really focus on this. And, wrestling for me at that point was still fun, but I realized that it wasn't something that I wanted to do forever. I didn't want to be one of those guys like Mickey Rourke and the wrestler that's just hanging around doing it for the sake of doing it. And I always wanted to be, in a rock and roll band from the time I was 13 years old, and knowing that we had something special. That was there was chemistry between us.
That's a huge part of it, yeah.
Yeah. So that was it. And we just said, let's just make this the full-time priority. And you see from the other projects that I've done over the years, it's been less and less as Fozzy gets bigger and bigger. So that was the moment. I think we just got on the phone and said, listen, either we do this, you poop or get off the pot. Go hard or go home. Either we do it all the way, or let's not just you can't be half circumcised. You either are or you aren't. And we don't want to be,
being half a virgin.
Non-circumcised anymore. Right?
I get it.
That's the best analogy ever.
And your moment as a kid probably, you said, was about, when you were about 13. Was it a Van Halen moment, maybe?
Well, it was just, I was...
Moment with the girls, passing the girls?
Yeah, just the feeling that you got playing music, you know what I mean? Like, picking up my friend, my cousin's husband, had a Paul McCartney Hofner bass that looks like a violin, and he had an autograph at his house from Paul Stanley that said, "To Ray, Paul Stanley," and the Y in Stanley was a star. And I just thought those two things, like this Paul Stanley autograph and this Paul McCartney bass, I was like, can I borrow that bass for a while? And then just took it home and started messing around with it, and a friend of mine played guitar, and the first song that we ever played with each other was the theme from Peter Gunn, dun 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 dun
Wow.
dun dun dun.
Yeah.
And then the other one was a song by a really obscure doom metal band called Trouble, Revelation, Life or Death. And that's I don't know why that was the first song we decided. There's like 18 parts to it. It's super hard, but that was the first taste of like, this is really fun. And then you find somebody that can play drums, and then you learn how to play, Seek and Destroy, and it's like you think you're freaking, Beethoven or something like that.
Life-changing.
And yeah, that feeling that you get when you kick in with the band, and I'm sure it was awful. Of course, it was awful. But to us, we were, Iron Maiden, and that was the start of it.
Mario wanted to know too. Mario, there he is. There's Mario right there.
Hey, Mario.
Hey, great.
Mario wants to know, Dark Passenger influenced from the show Dexter?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. See,
Yeah.
Mario, right on the money, baby. Right on the
Yeah,
money.
and that's something that if you talk like from Chasing the Grail and Sin and Bones, there was a lot of those type of TV show lyrics and fantasy lyrics, which are cool, but they didn't resonate as much as like the Judas type of lyrics do. But yeah, Dexter always talks about his dark passenger, which is his serial killer side, and I thought that was an interesting subject to write about, so we did. I also wrote a song about Walking Dead on that album. It was a B-side called Walk Amongst the Dead.
Right, sure.
There you go.
Absolutely. And then who else wanted to know? Michael wanted to know also, and you gave us a little backstory because he doesn't know, the Fozzy name came from...
We started out when I met Rich Ward. He's from Atlanta. He was in a band called Stuck Mojo, and whenever he was in town off, there's a lot of guys that lived in Atlanta at the time, Seven Dust Guys and Clutch and those type of bands, and they would just get together and do a cover project called Fozzy Osbourne. And I met Rich backstage at a WCW show. He was doing some music for them, a wrestling company that Ted Turner owned. Just met and hit it off right away. Kindred Spirits, talking about Stryper and Journey and all these bands that weren't super, talked about. And I said, yeah, I've been wanting to start a band. I've been thinking about it. And he's like, why don't you come to Atlanta and do a Fozzy Osbourne gig with us? So I did. And we did a couple shows, one in Atlanta and one in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which was great because it was the places called like the I don't know, the brass pub, the brass mug or something like this. And there was a guy that came all the way from Florida that was pissed off because he thought it was Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, no!
He's like, I came all this way for Ozzy Osbourne. I was like, dude, Ozzy's not playing the brass mug. I don't know what the hell you're thinking.
Not while Sharon's around.
That's right. As a result of those two shows, though, because it was Rich from Stuck Mojo and Chris from WCW leading the WWE,
there you go.
There was a bidding war for our band. Literally, this was in 2000 when there were still record companies and
I remember you
record
guys
labels.
came here to do our tour bus.
Yeah. Yeah,
back then.
We were signed by Megaforce.
Yeah,
which
and there were tons of people in the parking lot because like, oh,
Yeah.
Chris Jericho's coming and he's got a band, and I was like, a band, and
Yeah.
you guys were here like
it
on a
was
Saturday
Johnny
night.
Zazula, who's from New Jersey,
Yep.
and Missy Colazzo, also the fine New Jersey people. They signed us.
Yeah.
So the first 2 records are on Megaforce, which is the same label that Metallica started on.
Sure.
Anthrax,
Legendary.
Raven, all the great,
Legendary.
So
our old friend Eddie Trunk, who we were just talking about, who used to
big
work
time, signed
here
Ace
at
Frehley to
WDHA.
Megaforce.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, there's that whole amazing
the whole scene, and that's where we started. So people are there's a documentary about a guy called Michael Alago
Yeah.
that just came out. New York
Yeah.
kind of stalwart. He signed. He was the A&R guy for Metallica back in the day, and there's just a documentary out about him. And Lars was talking, and I said, "Do you realize Lars, the same guy that signed you guys, is the same guy that signed us to Megaforce Records?" So it's just interesting, kind of that's how long this band goes back to that
Yeah,
time frame.
sure.
And long story short, we said we can't be Fozzy Osbourne because Sharon will kill us. Let's just drop the Osbourne and keep it Fozzy. It's just a name, whatever. And that's just kind of maybe we should have called it Jericho or Ward or something. But like I said, now 17 years later, we have the best band name because it gets chanted every night during the show. You're going to hear it tonight at the Gramercy when we play.
Awesome. Going to take a break and come back, and we'll wrap up with Chris Jericho. Also want to do Painless. I want you to set up the tune. I want to talk about some other plans. Something cool that you have coming up, like super cool, but I want to spill the beans. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Coming back in our WDHA Coors Light studio with Chris Jericho of Fozzy. You said you had breaking news.
Breaking news. I just got this right now. If everyone's watching me on my phone thinking that I'm some kind of a snob, but I'm actually doing business here. We are now officially sold out at the Gramercy Theater tonight. We got the count this morning, and then somebody posted this wicked marquee Gramercy Fozzy sold out tonight.
That's a great thing to see.
And I was like, is that real or is it photoshopped? So our booking agent called, and we sold the last 40 tickets in like 20 minutes. So officially sold out. Our biggest show in New York at the Gramercy tonight. So thank you so much for everybody who is coming. And hey, people might have been listening to WDHA and say, we better get on the phone and get tickets. So thanks to you.
Yeah.
This is your sellout too, everybody. Everybody's sellout tonight. It's exciting.
So, not yet. We're going to play Painless too as we go out. But I do want to talk to you about, well, first of all, any of you guys, I'm just going to touch on this quickly. Do any of you guys have the books? I mean, Chris, you're like such an awesome author. You're a great storyteller. So those of you who have not picked up any of Chris Jericho's books, you have to. The reviews are always great. You never get a bad book review.
Yeah, man, they're all 4 are best sellers.
Always.
And
the Mike Damone Principle, the greatest thing ever. Greatest thing.
My newest book is called No is a 4-letter word, and I list the 20 principles because people always say, how did you make it in music? How did you make it in wrestling? How do you do all these things that you do? So I sat down and thought like 20 principles, lessons that I learned over the years from famous people, fictional characters, family, and the Mike Damone principle, which is Mike Damone from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And that principle is wherever you are, that's the place to be. Look at this. Isn't this great? And when you look at things like right now in this studio, I would not rather be anywhere else in the world. I don't know if that... What I'm trying to say is I want to be here rather than anywhere else in the world. And if you look at life that way, it always makes things so much better. You got to take the garbage out, but at least it's a nice day. You can smell the flowers or whatever.
Living in the moment, which we forget to do. You just really do.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really fun to write that. The Gene Simmons principle, always look like a star. The Vince McMahon principle, work hard. Just basic stuff. But when you put them all together in one book, I got a lot of great compliments from people saying this really helped me get out of the funk that I was in, or gave me inspiration to move forward in my goals and dreams that I had. So that's probably my favorite of all the books. And then the other 3 are all autobiographies of just all the ridiculous tales that I've experienced over the years from all the different things that I've done. So yeah, they're good reads. Obviously, I'm biased, but if I wasn't me, I would enjoy them.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic stuff. And you're going to be doing the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea.
Yeah.
This is going to be so cool. Have you guys heard about this? It's the cruise that combines your love of rock in your love of wrestling. This is amazing.
Yeah, we played the Kiss Cruise back in 2015.
Ding, 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 light bulb.
And it was one of the best experiences just as a musician, as a fan, as a professional. Just loved the whole thing from top to bottom. And I remember the moment I got off the boat, I called Fozzy's manager and I said, dude, we can do this. A rock and wrestling cruise. What am I known for? Rock and roll and wrestling. Maybe the only person on the planet who's done both of these seriously at the highest of levels. Anything that's new takes a while. It took me 2 years to get this thing up and running because I had to convince people that it would work. And even to the point where we had to have a team of engineers come on board the ship to make sure that you could, bolt the ring down. Or I'm like, Kiss's stage is way heavier than a wrestling ring.
Right.
I'm sure you can handle it. But still, it's never been done. And when something has never been done before, there's always people, the initial reaction is no. Then you keep pushing, and then suddenly it becomes a thing. Then it becomes a hit. Then suddenly everybody's a genius for thinking of it.
And the boat's going out. I mean, the boat is going out at the end of October.
Yeah, October 27th. And the matches will be held at sea in the middle of the ocean.
That's insane.
And throw in Corey Taylor's going to be there.
No!
Yeah, he's playing. Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons, straight from Motorhead right to us. Fozzy's going to be there. King is going to be there.
Wow.
I put together a great... I wanted an AC/DC tribute band, but I found out there was female AC/DC tribute bands. I want to see that. Shoot to Thrill is coming aboard. So, like, anything that I thought was cool, live podcasts, paranormal shows, wrestling, rock and roll, comedians. I had Jim Brewer and the Metallica stolen away from me.
He's doing a tour.
I know, he was booked on my cruise. I said, again, Lars, I was like, dude, I got Brewer under contract. I'll sue you. But obviously, he
Jim,
can't.
if you're listening.
Jim, if you're listening, I'm going to sue you. No,
Do
the cruise or do 7 months with Metallica.
Right.
I can't blame him. But Ron Funches is going to be there. Brad Williams is going to be there. There's another great rock and roll comedian who I haven't announced yet who's coming aboard. So anything that I think is cool, I wanted to put on board this ship. And it's at a sellout pace. If it does really good and sells out all the way, the idea is to make it an annual destination vacation the same way that the Kiss Cruise is. So far, so good. We're just under 7 months away, and we're getting closer to a sellout. So, ChrisJerichoCruise.com if you want to check that out. It's going to be a blast.
Fantastic. This was such just a treat for us, and it's such a pleasure to have you in our WDHA.
How cool is it that I got to spend a whole hour on a big rock station? That's why we talked earlier about rock and roll stations not being dead. You can still come and talk for a whole hour. You can't do that at a pop station or Sirius or whatever it may be. So yeah, I had a great time. Thank you for having me here, and what a great collection of sexy beasts. Oh, absolutely. We've been trying to make this happen since May. I remember we had a show in Delaware. I think I always think of Waynesville, like Delaware. What do you do in Delaware? It was a great show, by the way. Cheers to all the fine people from Delaware. But we were trying to get here, and there was no possible way that I could drive here and drive back and this way and that way. But we made it happen today. And we sold out the Gramercy while we were on the air. So we're all a part of this.
Fozzy!
Come on, Jack.
Famous at WDHA. Keep it going, guys.
Fozzy!
Yay!